time for a new generation of leadership in America.
Vice President Kamala Harris delivering her presidential campaign's closing remarks at the Ellipse. She stood in the same spot where on January 6, 2021, former President Donald Trump addressed his supporters hours before many of them stormed the U.S. Capitol. Good evening to you. I'm Scott Thuman. With both candidates' campaign closing remarks over, the focus now turns to election night, just 1 week away. CNN reporting that Harris will be at Howard University for an election night event on November 5th. Meanwhile, Trump's campaign will hold a party in West Palm Beach, Florida. Tonight, 7 News is on your side with team coverage. National correspondent Audra El-Nashar has highlights from Harris's speech. Tom Rousey and Rebecca Turco are along the National Mall. Audra, let's start with you. We just learned how many people came out tonight.
Good evening, Scott. The campaign tells us at least 75,000 people, including overflow, were here tonight at the Ellipse, outside the Ellipse, flowing on to the National Mall. That is far more, in fact, more than triple than they anticipated when they originally planned the event. Of course, the permitting, that crowd size that they anticipated grew and grew. But more than 75,000 we know from the campaign. And, you know, you can think of the people that were here tonight, people watching at home, wherever they were in the country, as the jury, right? Kamala Harris is a former prosecutor. And when she suddenly became the Democratic presidential nominee some 3 months ago, only if you can believe it, she says it is her job to prosecute the political case against former President Trump. And tonight she did that by drawing a contrast between two futures, a future with her in the Oval Office and another under a second Trump administration. Take a listen.
We know what Donald Trump has in mind. More chaos, more division, and policies that help those at the very top and hurt everyone else. I offer a different path. I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your life better.
Now, Scott, we talk a lot about those 7 battleground states from the Midwest, the Rust Belt, the so-called Blue Wall, to the Sun Belt that are likely going to decide the outcome of this election. Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, are going to be blitzing those states in the next 7 days. And the campaign says they do believe all 7 are in play for them. They acknowledge, though, that the polls are close. I'll leave you with this quote from Jen O'Malley Dillon, the campaign manager, this morning, Scott. She says this will be a margin of error race.
Audra El-Nashar, thank you for that live report. The crowd, as she mentioned, big enough tonight that we could actually see it from the rooftop of our station's building in Arlington. I took this video from my phone around 7:30 tonight. People spanning from the Ellipse to the Washington Monument, which is about half a mile. 7 News' Rebecca Turco continues our team coverage tonight. Rebecca, what was the reaction from voters tonight?
Well, voters tonight were so excited. So many of them came out to hear the vice president speak. Many of them got here hours early just to make sure that they could get an earlier seat if they could in the front of the row there, anxious to see her talk. So excited. And when Vice President Kamala Harris came out to the stage, the crowd erupted in cheers, people shouting Kamala over and over. Her campaign, again, says more than 75,000 people came out here tonight. Such a passionate crowd. Some people even got all dressed up for the occasion. I caught up with one woman decked out in pins and earrings of the Veep. She even brought a plastic doll of her. She says she recognizes the historical nature of this election, the chance for the first female president.
So excited, so excited. I was actually in Philly yesterday for the rally there with John Legend and Bruce Springsteen, and I am like running on empty, but I'm just so excited about all of this that I'm just going to keep going.
Now, I spoke with several women tonight about this big moment. Their consensus is that the VP is highly qualified for this job, and they're calling this election crucial. Reporting live from the National Mall, Rebecca Turco, 7 News.
Thank you, Rebecca. Now to Tom Rousey. Tom, an overall calm night, but we just learned that 2 people, at least 2, were arrested and charged with assaulting a police officer near the Ellipse. And then D.C. Fire and EMS evaluated 34 people at the rally. which is somewhat typical sometimes with crowds of this size. We did see people getting escorted out by security as well.
We did. We saw a number of folks escorted out who were not arrested. You'll see video of that in just a moment. First, though, I want to talk about how things are starting to return to normal. This is Constitution Avenue behind me. It is back open to traffic after being closed to traffic almost the entire day. You can see, though, in the distance there, a lot of cleanup work going on at the moment as they break down from this big rally where it's now estimated 75,000 people came. Now, let me show you some video we took just down the road after the rally. Federal Triangle is the closest metro station to the Ellipse where Kamala Harris gave her speech, and it got very crowded after the rally as a lot of folks headed out that way since it wasn't easy to get around traffic-wise. Now, in addition to that, Metro Center wasn't too far away, and the Smithsonian Metro Station wasn't too far away either. So a lot of folks using the Metro tonight, and there were other big events going on in town as well, so it was crowded. Now, we mentioned those folks who were escorted out. This is video we took shortly after Kamala Harris started talking. People just started shouting at various points in the crowd. They had clearly planned to do this, and it was everywhere you looked for a moment. You could see people being escorted out. Some were yelling about Gaza, some about arms embargoes. They were all taken out if they wouldn't stop yelling. So we saw a lot of the security escorting folks out. As Scott mentioned, 2 people were arrested. A lot of folks, though, were escorted out without being arrested. They were just told they had to leave the Ellipse area because they were yelling. Now, if we come back out live, this is a live image of the Ellipse right here. As I mentioned, the cleanup is on here in this area after those tens of thousands of folks turned out for this speech by Kamala Harris. And again, streets, they've pretty much reopened in the area, so if you need to drive in the morning in downtown Washington, things should be largely back to normal. Reporting live along Constitution Avenue, I'm Tom Rousey, 7 News.
All right, Tom, thank you. Now, on the Republican ticket, former President Trump was busy on the campaign trail as well today. He held a rally in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. But before that, he was in Florida, where he responded to some backlash from his campaign's closing speech on Sunday, where critics say some speakers gave misogynistic or racist remarks, including a comedian who called Puerto Rico a, quote, floating island of garbage.
I don't think anybody has ever seen anything like what happened the other night at Madison Square Garden. The love in that room, it was breathtaking. It's like a love fest, an absolute love fest, and it was my honor to be involved.
Now, in the meantime, President Biden is now in some hot water after responding to the Trump rally controversy. While speaking with Voto Latino tonight, Biden implied that Trump supporters are garbage.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Now, the White House moving quickly to try and clean up that comment, saying that Biden was referring to rhetoric, not Trump supporters. Biden also immediately took to social media to try and clarify his comment. So, how motivated are you to take part in this year's election? Are you voting? Have you already done so or still planning to? Or are you thinking of sitting this election out because you don't like the candidates? I've got a poll live right now on X. If you go to my account, we want to hear from you. You can chime in right there. More than 200 of you so far have voted. Over 60% of you say you've already cast your ballot early.